In the beginning, there was...
The Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephus and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. And we're back. I bet you didn't see that coming. Welcome to episode 64 of the Bitchspot Report Podcast, the only conservative atheist podcast out there because, well, we're special. This week, we are reminded once again that creationists don't have a clue what they're talking about. We find the real reason for Catholic sex abuse. We get some good news. America's finally getting more tolerant and accepting towards atheists. And Christians think that the devil really is out to get them. But first, we have a special guest this week, Jim Goebel from the Side Project Live podcast. Apparently, Jim hates us and wants to spend the main event yelling at us. But that's okay, because we can take it. So how's it going, everybody?
Going great.
Wait, you're not saying it could be better?
See, I yell at him about that every week, and things go bad.
I was all prepared to say it could be worse.
Yeah, it could be worse,
right.
and like the whole podcast explodes.
Right. No, it's actually been, I'm in a good mood still. I'm still in a good mood. Actually, I got to meet John and Brandy from my other podcast, the Reverend Skeptics. They were on vacation. I was here in Detroit. They had drove through. We kind of had dinner when they stopped, and then the way back they stopped. And we had lunch. It was a great weekend. So
I was going to say,
cool.
Why would anybody want to go on vacation to Detroit?
Yeah.
I don't know. I did it.
Yeah, but you're getting paid to be there. You're not paying to be there.
Right.
So to speak.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could take a lot more abuse on that front. But,
Yeah.
No, I guess her family lives up north of here. I guess she went to school in Detroit, so she knew all these places. We did some cool stuff, and
What, they weren't burned down yet?
some of the town is still standing. I mean, not where I work, but elsewhere.
Where's Omni Consumer Products when you need them?
Yeah, really.
Right.
All right. Well, how's everybody's weekend and the holiday and all that stuff? I know these holidays always screw me up. I was thinking, well, yeah, I got to do a podcast tomorrow. Oh, shit, that's today.
I was trying on Saturday morning. I've been having so many problems with podcasts, and right now here in Illinois, we're involved in the petition season to get libertarian candidates on the ballot, and we have to get 10 times the signatures that the main two parties have to get. And so I was going to do a little live thingy from a Starbucks in Joliet, but not thinking this through. Wi-Fi at Starbucks is it totally sucks. Probably worse than your hotel Wi-Fi, Mike.
Right.
So
it can't be as bad as this.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was pretty horrid. So I had to cut that short, and then the mother-in-law had us working around the house all weekend, and then like pulling bushes out and trimming trees and mowing the lawn and burning shit. That's a nice thing about living out in the middle of a cornfield area. You know, you can burn all the crap you want, and nobody will complain. So. Plus one for not living in city limits.
Yeah, I don't have to deal with that. I had my gardeners do the entire front yard last week, or the week before now, where they just ripped everything out and completely replanted the entire front thing, and I just kind of sat around and watched them. I don't have to do the work. I pay somebody else for that.
Your gardeners. Woo! We talking hoity-toity here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I love getting on the tractor and going through the yard. I mean, any type of yard work. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment and whatever, but I'm the only one who seems to like to do it. My little brother watches the house, but he's afraid of power equipment. So I will bet I have a nice wheat field in my backyard from the grass not getting cut for 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, I know my backyard needs it, but the pull starter on my mower broke, and I haven't gotten around to replacing it. So it's like one of these days I have to do that.
Yeah, we got a nice.
Because the gardeners won't go in the backyard; they're afraid of the dogs.
Yeah, we got a nice riding mower, so it's not a tractor. Like I'm, not a huge tractor, but we got a pretty decent riding mower. We got like about an acre or so here to mow, and that is the drawback about living in the middle of nowhere. You have a pretty big yard.
I got 10 acres.
10 acres?
But 99% of it's orange groves, so you don't have to mow it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Orange groves?
Yeah, I'm on a 3/4 acre, except I keep it a little bit wooded, so I only have to do maybe about half of it. But definitely having a riding mower, my back has been applauding me for that move.
Oh, I hear you all about the back issue. I got like this kink in my spine because one of my legs is a full inch shorter than the other one. Kind of.
That generally sucks.
Yeah, generally does. I've learned to live with it. It doesn't hurt too badly yet, but I've learned to live with it. Hey, Mike, got a question for you. I heard you on a podcast a while back. You were talking about the Chicago White Sox, the Black Sox scandal.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning a bar or a restaurant or something down in Gardner. What was the name of that place?
The Gardner House.
The Gardner House. Okay. I was wanting to ask you this. Do you remember the Riviera?
The Riviera.
Gardner.
It's familiar.
It was like right on the north end of town on Route 66 or Route 53, whichever you want to call it.
Yeah. I don't know if that was... I don't remember it, actually.
The restaurant was like in the cruddy basement of this place. And supposedly it was one of Al Capone's hideouts back in the day. In Gardner.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, Capone was born in Braidwood, from what I understand. No, he wasn't born in Braidwood. Who was born in Braidwood? I think he lived in Braidwood for a spell. I don't know. My history ain't what it is.
Out. Yeah, there's supposed to be a place, I think in Ottawa, where Capone would sneak away to. And the only reason why I've heard the story, and I kind of believe it because, see, my grandfather was a bookmaker. Mm-hmm. And he would talk about some of these characters, and it's all these Italian names that he knew. And like, all of a sudden, it's like I might be watching a documentary, and I go, wait a minute, that name's familiar. Like, my grandfather knew him, and this is a guy that killed 15 people and whatever, it's like, I think it's interesting. I don't know if anybody's ever looked into, I know that the district attorney's house was also a Prohibition era casino and bar. I think they when they were doing some remodeling, they found all the gambling equipment hidden behind the walls.
Nice.
Reels and stuff like that. And so I know that there was the downtown Ottawa, there's the courthouse, and across, I think, was the police station. And there was a tunnel. And they would have games underneath the courthouse.
Oh, sweet.
When they got word of a police raid, the police would cross the street. They would go under and come out through the police station to get away.
Because they knew the police wouldn't be there.
Right.
Oh, that's freaking awesome.
And a lot of the roadhouses along Route 6 going out of Ottawa, like heading down toward Peoria. My mom and dad's from Ottawa. I was born in Ottawa. And they would talk about when my mom and dad was dating, they would go to these roadhouses because they always had the best music. And the parking lots were full, but no one was in the upper level. So they had the whole dance floor to themselves because the games were going on underneath. And my dad knew of all these places because that's where my grandfather used to work, So, I mean, it's just a neat history that I think maybe is getting lost, And I'm a history nut, so I'm really into the these stories, and I'm hearing I hear stuff about like most of the river towns along the Illinois River were. It's amazing to me that it was popular with the like with the vaudeville and like Bob Hope and all the big names. They were in Joliet and Lockport.
Well, there's the old phrase, "Will it play in Peoria?"
Right. What would attract these people to I mean, I've been to Morris, and it's a happening town, but it's not like going to Chicago, type of thing. Joliet's kind of the same thing. I mean, it's kind of a rundown. Why would anybody want to go to, to play in Joliet or Morris or Ottawa or anything like that? But it was, the gambling. There was all sorts of stuff. They were playing all night. It starts making a lot of sense to me that that explains it. There's just people out entertaining themselves. They go see a show and then they go out and blow some money on on the game tables,
And now you can do that again. What with the casinos in Joliet?
Yes, two of them.
Two of them. Two casinos. Yeah, I find it interesting that Joliet's got 2 casinos and 4 prisons. So go figure that out.
Yeah, that's.
And if you've ever seen the TV show Prison Break, the whole first season was filmed in Joliet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And of course, the opening scene of Blues Brothers. I mean, that's the classic. And anytime you watch The Untouchables, or even Police Squad, send them to the Statesville prison.
Yeah, the whole the TV series, you could tell if you watched it, was pretty much based in Chicago. But when they came out with the movies, they moved it all to L.A.
Right.
Which sucked.
True.
Oh gosh, that was a great show.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But I'm taking over. This is your show. This isn't mine. But I sent you some files last night. You guys are always having fun with Pat Robertson. And a little background is, at one time I was a Christian, and at one time I actually gave money to the 700 Club. Don't shoot me.
We're sorry.
Yeah, me too. But for giving the money, I got this little tape series called The Full Armor of God. It was about spiritual warfare, and back in the day, it was pretty cool. But now I listened to it. I got rid of the tapes long ago, but I found the MP3s just a couple nights ago, actually on the internet. And listening to it now is just the most bizarre thing ever. So I present 3 sound files to you for a gift.
Well, thank you very much.
So I don't know if you have those up or whatever, but.
I gotta check that out.
They are pretty awesome.
I've got them, and I'll go ahead and plug some into the show, but it's going to be just more insanity from the bizarre mind of Pat Robertson, I'm sure.
But there's the shortest one is worth using all the time. It's a phrase that you would never, ever, ever, ever think you would ever hear him say, and it's pretty classic. I remember when I heard the tape series for the first time, and I heard him say that, I'm like, what? I had to do a double take.
And if you will forgive my use of this expression, hurt the bitch.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, I used to, way back when I was a Christian, I used to go and get all kinds of tape series and all kinds of stuff from all kinds of apologists. And I've listened to some of those over the years, and I can't believe some of the crap that comes out of their mouths. And I can't believe that I ever once believed any of this garbage.
I think the funny thing with the Pat Robertson clips that I sent you is that, if you just heard those clips out of context, which I did provide them to you out of context, you would think that he's a kinky freak.
Well, he probably is.
Well, you know how the religious, how those ministers are, and especially people that are PKs, preachers' kids. Pretty much all the wild ones, they're always breaking all the rules and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I went to school with the kids of the guy who had Crystal Cathedral.
Schuler.
I went to school with his kids.
Oh boy!
And you better believe they were the wild ones. I was very, very good friends. I mean, I used to go hang out at his house, way back in the day. So, I mean, I was in close with the family, and, before they all started backstabbing and bitching about each other and lost all their money and lost the Crystal Cathedral and all the rest of that stuff.
Bitch!
Yeah.
I'm a man of 1,000 voices. Only some of them make sense. Anyway.
That works. All right. Well, did we have anything else random to throw out before we got into the news?
42.
42. The answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Thank you. The other day was just towel day.
Yes, it was. Right after May the 4th.
Be with you. And Revenge of the 5th.
Yes.
Wow, we're geeks.
We do this. We just wander. It doesn't matter.
I don't know if you heard my show, but we do quite a bit of that.
The best shows do. We just kind of go off on these bizarre tangents, and you don't hear a lot of it on the air because we cut it out. But me and Mike will just go off on a tangent. We'll just start talking about things, and 45 minutes later, we'll go, we had a subject someplace in there. We should go find that again.
Yeah,
yeah. I find my
I was to say, let's get back to the subject. I'm like, oh my god. Yeah.
After a while, I totally forget what we were talking about, and I like to throw out the phrase that my mind is like a steel trap. What goes in comes out all mangled. So
that's probably true. All right. Well, let's go ahead and do some news. And now the news. Our friends at the Creation Museum are at it again. This time they're claiming that a fossilized dinosaur, an example of Allosaurus fragilis, is going to prove that creationism really is true and that Noah's Ark actually happened. Unfortunately, the claims of Answers and Generous's geologist Andrew Stelling are absurd, as shouldn't be surprising, and once again Ken Ham and his cronies are left looking like a bunch of uneducated idiots. Why do we talk about these people like every week, and they just keep getting dumber and dumber?
Because it's a source of cheap humor?
Why, yeah.
PR. I mean, for them, it's PR. You know, it's like, hey, we just made this great discovery. We found a skeleton of a 4,500-year-old Allosaurus.
Essentially their claim is that they found this Allosaurus that was generally intact. Well, they found half the bones of an Allosaurus, but it was generally in the order that you should expect to find them, and therefore they're arguing that this proves it was buried in a hurry, and therefore flood.
You know, I think a lot of people don't realize that there's more than just the Creation Museum down in Louisville, Kentucky. There's also, I think there's a couple more in the country, and there's one outside on the road going to Mount St. Helens. It's called the Seven Wonders Creation Museum, and I haven't seen much of anything about this place, but supposedly they use Mount St. Helens and the catastrophic eruption and all of that as proof for this sort of thing. It's must be a new thing because it's only on some images on Google Earth. But if you look at it, it looks like it's like the size of a trailer, and it's like there's no budget or anything to it. And I'm like, that would be kind of cool just to go in there to see what they're talking about, or see what they got going and compare it to the other Creation Museum. But yeah, I mean, they're saying, well, the floods and the lahars and all of that, it could have easily buried all of this stuff like real fast and then fossilized and it's kind of like, there's not a facepalm strong enough for that sort of argument.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love how the creationists, they'll always point to the outliers, the things that fall outside of the norms as evidence that their beliefs are right. Well, all right, if, say, there's 1 million different fossils and 5 of them are found intact, how does that prove, because you can say that 5 of them were buried rapidly, that there was this flood? What about the 99.99999% of things that don't prove the flood?
The trail from the airplane goes on and off, so that must mean chemtrails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm just amazed that you got a geologist. I mean, an alleged geologist. I'm gonna say alleged because
it's true.
I mean, didn't where was that mudslide not too long ago? Recently, in California. I mean, that would be enough to bury an Allosaurus. I mean, if someday, a couple million years from now, someone's digging in there, they'll find the remains of those people probably, and they'll probably be intact. It's like, is that proof of a global flood? No, it means that there was a landslide or a flash flood.
Well, look at Pompeii. I mean, they've found people totally fossilized or mummified or whatever, due to the eruptions out there. Doesn't mean that there was a flood or sediment or anything. It just means that people were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, it was a global volcanic event.
Right.
Which actually could possibly happen, unlike a global flood. Well, in sort of a roundabout way, if you consider supervolcanoes.
Right.
Yeah, the Yellowstone cult. Actually, even that, there was a lake where they have found hundreds of, and these wouldn't be dinosaurs. These would be the megafauna. Again, imperfect altogether from an eruption of this Yellowstone caldera, and like 65,000 years ago or something like that. And everything's like where they were. They were just knocked down and covered. It's like
there is in Yellowstone Park, and I've never seen it because my dad would never take us on real hiking trips. But there's a mountain in Yellowstone Park called Fossil Ridge, something like that. No, not Fossil Ridge. Petrified. I don't remember, but it's where the trees were all petrified, standing up, firmly rooted in the ground due to events with the last Yellowstone eruption.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's not surprising at all, but the creationists, all they can see is everything must be evidence for their fantasy world, and they can't see how this stuff actually happens in the real world.
Presuppositionalism. that word that begins with a P.
Presuppositionalism, yes.
There we go.
Yeah, well, Ken Ham's not a presuppositionalist, but he falls into the same kind of crazy that they do. This reminded me when I was reading this of this picture I saw, and this is out of some Christian kids coloring book, and I'm going to see if I can find this picture and throw it in the show notes, but there's a coloring book page out there somewhere that has Jesus riding a dinosaur, and, no, it gets better. And the text says, and it's written for kids. I don't remember exactly how the text goes, but it goes, we don't know for sure if Jesus ever rode his dinosaur, but he probably did, and it would have been cool. I'm going, seriously, are you people that dumb?
Here's the thing with the whole Ken Ham thing and the dinosaurs on the Ark and all of that. All of the fossils are found, for the most part, with some exception, are found in sedimentary rock. Now, but they're saying that the dinosaurs were on the Ark, and I'm thinking, well, wouldn't it make more sense if the Ark and the whole worldwide flood thing ever really happened? Wouldn't it make more sense that, they didn't make it to the Ark and they got buried under the sediment from the flood?
Well, that's what they want you to think anyway, but Ken Ham thinks there were only 50 different kinds of dinosaurs and they all got on the Ark. Never mind that there's many, 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 many more. He just arbitrarily picked 50 because it sounded like a good round number, and because they all took little baby dinosaurs and stuck them on the Ark.
Well, let's see. Thousands upon thousands of different dinosaurs is too many, yet the number they had in the Jurassic Park films is too little. 50 sounds about a good medium.
Yeah, well, these people probably think Jurassic Park was a documentary. They think the Flintstones does, whatever. As I say every week, what the fuck's wrong with these people?
What the hell? Damn it, Bobby.
Drink.
Take a drink, yeah.
Yeah.
Really, almost every week, we talk about these people. It's the same people saying the same shit, and it sounds to me like they're trying to top themselves. It's like what we said last week, that wasn't crazy enough. We got to come up with something that's even more batshit crazy. And they keep doing it.
Yeah, I can understand a Ken Ham pushing this, but a guy claiming to be a geologist who doesn't even understand geologic forces.
Oh,
you know what?
It's like it goes beyond. I have to believe that they've got a real good crack dealer, and they sit in the back room. They do like a half a bag, and then they come out and do their preaching, and then when they're done, they go back in there and finish the other half a bag and do it over again, because they're definitely not thinking. They don't realize how stupid they sound. Even if you could peel away the religious part, this is what gets me is a geologist. I would like to think, even if they're trained geologists, because you're not talking about any type of, you're not talking about life, you're not talking about, evolution or anything like that. You're just talking about rocks and how rocks fall, how they move, how they erode, how mountains build, and so on. You would think this guy discounts everything but a global flood. And, if he ever published this finding, someone would be there calling up his university and saying, take back his PhD, or even if he probably doesn't even have a PhD, but take something away from this guy because he's an idiot.
But this is nothing new. Go back into the 70s and you've got Henry Morris and Dwayne Gish and all these old school creationists who all have scientific degrees. But here's the secret about scientific degrees. It's only science if you're doing what the degree tells you. All right, just because you got letters after your name doesn't mean the shit coming out of your mouth makes sense. There's no guarantees.
Well, I know that. It's just amazing that he would automatically discount every other possible and goes into this, it has to be a flood, and, of course, Ken Ham, hey, I got my expert here saying that this happened during the flood 4,500 years ago. And, do these people saying it understand what they're saying? And I'm very sure that the people that will listen to a Ken Ham and believe Ken Ham and his people, they're definitely not, they're not thinking it's like, oh yeah, it's got to be right because Ken Ham and he's got the book to say that proves it all type of thing.
I was going to say, Ken Ham, his name has just totally ruined me on good deli sandwiches forever now. I don't know. I went to a Christian college. I went to Olivet Nazarene University in beautiful Bourbonnais, Illinois, which, that's where the Chicago Bears are doing their summer camp now. And in 96, I went on a geology trip they had to the Southwest. And I figured, hey, vacation, school credit, more debt, I'm in. And the professor and everybody that was on that trip were like devout Christians. Yet we would be driving through New Mexico, and we were in this one pass. And one of the guys in the thing was like, pull over. Look at this. This is the rock here. This rock here has got to be 2 billion years old. And then they were all evolutionists, all believed in the old earth. They were exceedingly Christian, and I'm thinking like, wow, that's pretty interesting. It's only like one more step before you get rid of the fairy tale altogether. But that was pretty interesting to see that sort of thing happening.
My mom went to St. Francis College in Joliet, and she had Joliet, yeah, and some of the I forget his father Carlin, I think it was, and he really didn't talk much like you were talking to someone religious. I mean, this guy was, I forget what he taught exactly, but I think had something to do with history, philosophy, or something like that. And this is a guy who can actually understand Aramaic. He spoke Aramaic, he spoke Hebrew, he knew all these languages, but he talked a lot like a modern day, regular intellectual. That blew me away because he was talking about stuff like, even questioning God almost and teaching it, in a Catholic school. It's like, wow, just to add to your story there, because it's not impossible to, at least embrace science, keeping science and religion separate. It's, there's that, it can be done. It's just apparently the Ken Hams and the Ray Comforts and the Pat Robertsons can't. And those who follow him religiously, sending him money every week, don't see past that, or they accept their word as if it came straight from God.
Although, didn't Pat Robertson recently come out saying that he doesn't believe in creationism or something? I could have sworn I heard that somewhere recently.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He has rejected creationism entirely. He actually said that, and it was right after the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate, but he came out and he said it makes Christianity look bad, and he thinks anybody who believes creationism actually happened is a Looney Tune.
I remember a couple of years ago,
coming from Ken Ham,
I remember a couple of years ago, Pat Robertson even came out saying that pot should be legal.
Yeah, well, he said he was saying divorce is okay as long as the wife is Alzheimer's. He said a lot of crazy stuff.
I think Pat Robertson is getting Alzheimer's, but it might actually be working in his favor.
Might make him a little more intelligent.
Yes, he's had a few intelligent positions over the last 5 years. Yeah. There's only a couple intelligent positions. Only, I don't know, however many millions more to go.
Yep. But anyway, getting back to this, one thing that we do see is that there are a considerable number of creationists and Christians who will go and will get scientific degrees just so that they have the degree and they can claim that they are now a authority. And they're going to just completely ignore everything they learned in college, and they're going to go right back to the Bible and just say, see, and because I have this degree, now I know that all this stuff in the Bible is actually true, and you should listen to me.
BA, so PhD, EIEIO, BS.
Yeah, that's it.
I've got my BS in creationism.
Yes. All right, Mike, you want to go ahead and grab your first story?
Okay. This is from ABC News. This is the Australian broadcast company. This is from Australia. Royal Commission: Christian brothers didn't consider sexual abuse of students a crime. The Christian brothers who ran children's homes in Western Australia in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s did not consider the abuse of students a crime, a Royal Commission has heard. Brother Anthony Shannon, I hope that's Shahan, a former province leader of the Christian Brothers in Western Australia, today gave evidence at the Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sexual abuse in Perth, and they're examining abuses in 4 homes in Perth, Tardun, Bindoon. I'm sorry.
It's Australia. Yeah.
Between 1947 and 1968. And Brother Shahan told the hearing, the mindset at the time meant abuse was not thought of first and foremost as a crime, but as a moral fault or failing. We've done these stories on here before. There's like this, like you can block out this abuse because it was okay. Brother so-and-so did it before me, and, brother so-and-so continued the tradition. It's okay. We were just punishing, whatever, of course, any type of Catholic upbringing in that time. I mean, I've heard the stories from my dad about getting the steel rule across the hand, and the nuns, I mean, literally, they picked the biggest kid. My dad always happened to be the biggest kid, and push him downstairs. That's their way of showing who was boss. It's like, it was this violent upbringing. I mean, I have a friend who was left-handed, and every time he tried to use his left hand to write, it was a steel rod across the hand, his left hand, and he had to try to learn to write right-handed. It's amazing. But it was okay. We didn't realize it was a bad thing. And this is the thing that really bothers me. I can probably buy maybe corporal punishment. When I went to public school, corporal punishment, I was there until the 70s. I forget when Illinois got rid of it. I was in classrooms where there was the paddle, and I don't think it ever got used much. I think maybe once or twice. But then going that step further and what these guys did, and, of course, the pedophilia that's coming out. I mean, even Joliet's now, they're coming clean on some of the priests in that diocese. It just amazes me. And when you get these guys on the stand, they don't see anything wrong with it. That's the amazing thing to me.
I love the phrase moral fault or failing. Breaking, when you're a kid and you broke the window because you're playing ball too close to the house or something, then blaming it on your little brother, that's a moral fault or failing. This is just plain old criminal.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, I know I said this last week, but these people are trying to tell us that they follow a higher moral source, yet they don't seem to know that molesting kids is wrong and should be punished.
It reminds me of an old bit that Steve Martin once did. He was doing this bit about becoming a millionaire and never paying taxes, and he's like, how do you become a millionaire and never pay taxes? First, get $1 million. Now, what do you say to the taxman when he comes to your door and says, you have never paid taxes? 2 simple words. 2 simple words in the English language. I forgot. How many times do you let yourself get into terrible situations because you don't say I forgot? Let's say you're on trial for armed robbery. You say, I forgot armed robbery was illegal. I forgot messing around with little kids was illegal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this all falls into the too stupid to live category, really. I mean, what's next? Are they just going to go, well, we didn't consider murder to be a crime or armed robbery or robbing banks or whatever?
I forgot.
I forgot. Well, no, they didn't forget. They just never considered that in the first place.
We've done these stories, and it's the same thing. It's the same mindset that they never quite got that what they were doing could be wrong. And actually, I mean, I don't even think the psychology, I don't think had really. Maybe they just didn't understand what they were doing was. It would physically or mentally harm these kids. We know now that this type of behavior, an adult and abusing children, can have psychological ramifications. When you're talking about like the late 60s, early 70s, even some of this has been going on even till today. A lot of those old rules should have went out the window a long time ago. I mean, I could probably see 40s, 50s when, no one really understood what psychological damage these priests were doing. But in the 60s, this is when things started kind of gelling with the idea of sexual abuse being bad or any type of abuse, whatever the abuse is. And then, then it should have been realized. And I don't know, it just, like I said, it blows my mind that even today we're still dealing with the problem, and there's still priests out there molesting kids. And I'm having trouble understanding it. I mean, because I think even now the Pope is trying to do something. I don't know what. I just saw an article about him saying something about this. I didn't read the article, so I don't know if he's it's just another lip service. Hey, we're going to do something about the pedophile priests.
We need a bigger rug and a bigger broom.
Yeah, that's it.
It occurs to me, and I don't know if this has really been proven or anything, but the fact, especially in the Catholic Church, and I'm sure some Protestant denominations are like this too, but the fact that the priests can't marry and have a natural outlet for whatever desires they have, that's got to play something into this whole equation.
Oh, I think that's the majority of it. I mean, having sex is a natural part of being human. And if you take that away from people, it's going to come out. And the one thing that Catholic priests have access to is kids. Mm-hmm. And kids, they can threaten the kids and say, don't tell anybody a lot more effectively than they can say that to adults.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is not anything new. This is no surprise. We see this over and over again. I mean, our good friend, ex-Cardinal Roger Mahony, formerly of the Los Angeles Archdiocese, he said that back in the 80s, the Catholic Church just didn't know that sex abuse was wrong.
I forgot.
They forgot. But, I mean, this is from the Catholic Church. Well, I guess Christianity forgot slavery was wrong way back in the day, too.
And what? And I was mentioning Protestant denominations. I don't know how it's shaping up, but they were on the edge of a huge scandal with pedophilia with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I don't think that ever broke anywhere near as big as the Catholic Church thing. But, I mean, let's be honest, the Catholic Church is a larger organization by a long shot. But, I mean, still... The regulations and these rules that they're putting down on the people of the cloth, so to speak, it transcends different, flavors of religiosity.
Oh, absolutely. And I love these people who just sit around and say, well, we just didn't know any better. But let's be really honest. The only reason that they're changing today, that the Pope is out there paying lip service to this, and that all these different people are saying, oh, yeah, it's horrible and awful and we never should have done that, is because there's been such a public outrage. If nobody ever knew about pedophile priests or other religious sex offenders, these people would still be hiding the guilty and moving offenders around. It's not like their morality has made them change. It's that being held legally responsible has made them change. It's costing them money, and now they're going, oh, well, I guess we shouldn't be doing that, should we? Morally superior, my ass. These people are morally inferior.
Or morally retarded. I mean, that's about the only way I could think of it, because they hold themselves up as moral. This is the moral high ground. The priests are, they're the keepers of morals. They're the ones that are supposed to, they give us the commandments, and the Bible says this, and if you hold true, like the Leviticus and the homosexuality. I mean, all that kind of stuff. They hold themselves up to that, but it's okay if no one finds out. And I could do it with the little boy, and that type of thing. And because whatever the reason that they come up with, that my Bible says this is our morals, but I can violate them, because I'm a priest, because I have access. I have little boys, and I've got urges. I'm gonna, whatever.
Well, come on. The Ten Commandments do not specifically say, thou shalt not fuck children. That's why they get away with it.
Apparently. That may be the loophole.
That should be the 11th commandment.
I brought up the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I just found the website devoted to protecting children from the pedophile priests or whatever they have in the Jehovah's Witnesses, and that is silentlambs.org. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, well, there's an awful lot of those out there where they're just out trying to protect people from the religious. Mm-hmm. And it's sad that they have to have them.
Yeah.
We should not need SNAP. I'm sorry, we just shouldn't. The Catholics should not be screwing kids and raping people. And it's not just kids. There's lots of cases where they're raping and molesting adults, too. Yeah. They're out of control, and they've got this kind of religious power and influence over people where they think they can just get away with it.
Right.
So I don't know what to do. I'm sure this will not be the last story we cover like this, because next week another scandal is going to break, and somebody else is going to go to jail for molesting and abusing kids.
Right.
It's the religious way.
Or the Vatican saying, yeah, we're opposed to this. We got to get, we're going to crack down on, all these pedophile priests.
And how long have they been saying that?
Story, man. And forever and ever.
We haven't heard of a big name falling to this sort of a scandal in a long time. Maybe we should start a pool.
Hey, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see. Let me think. Probably Joel Osteen. I think probably be the next one. Just throwing that out there.
I could see that. Yeah. I could definitely see that.
Not Pat Robertson, because who'd want to get their freak on with him?
I don't think it's possible for him to get anything on with anybody. Oh, that's a scary thought, and I don't want to go there. It's like picturing Pat Robertson naked.
Kill it with fire.
Oh God, no. All right, sand loss. All right, we're moving on. That's it. I don't want that. We're not doing that anymore.
And the demon was leading her to try to get involved in some kind of a sexual context where she would be beaten and hurt. And we call that SM like it's some wonderful experience in their magazines with these whips and chains and leather gloves and belts and what have you.
And if anybody has pictures of Pat Robertson naked, do not send them to me.
Yeah.
No. You send them to Mike. He liked that. In our feel-good story of the week, it turns out that an increasing number of Americans might actually be willing to vote for an open atheist for president. We've long known that atheists were the most mistrusted minority in America, but it seems that's changing. The number of American voters who said that it didn't matter what a person's religious beliefs were rose from 32% in 2007 to 41% today, and people who said that they were unlikely to vote for a person who didn't believe in God fell from 63% in 2007 to 53% today. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. Yay. It's not fast enough, but hey.
Every little bit.
I want to believe that. I have my doubts, because it just doesn't seem to me that the thing with these polls is they're pretty much all what's the word I'm looking for? Anonymous. But I don't know how many people would be willing to do that, willing to admit that openly. And when you get right down to it, for the foreseeable future, I mean, both parties are gonna offer up, wholly religious people anyway. And, I don't know. I have my doubts.
Well, they are saying that people are getting more sick of overt religiosity by politicians, and they think the religion should stay in the churches and out of the public sphere. So I agree with them there. I think that the Republicans and the Democrats, where they've been playing this bizarre religious card for so long, I think that's really shot them both in the foot. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to start seeing a backlash against that.
There's a whole bunch of the goofy crap, on the Republican side, and the news media doesn't really seem to report too much about the goofy crap that happens on the Democrat side. I remember back in, gosh, I don't remember how long ago it was, but a group of left-wing religious people, I think it was in Iowa, were putting out billboards everywhere, said WWJD, what would Jesus drive, as a huge thing against SUVs.
Oh, good.
Wow.
He would drive a Prius. Come on.
He would ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
I ride
Jesus
a bike
today would be a hipster. Come on.
Jesus with a fedora, a fedora and a goatee, sipping on a PBR. Turned the water into PBR.
I would not be surprised if they really thought that.
With the hemp shirt, the hemp outfit. Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
He'd feed the masses, but it's too mainstream.
Yeah. No, he'd feed the masses, but it would require welfare. And in this article, they make a big thing about how a lot of people are staying in the closet with their atheism. I've never understood that. All right. Now, okay, I can understand it if you're like under the age of 18 and your parents are going to throw you out of the house, or you're going to suffer financial or physical harm by coming out as an atheist. But for most people, that's just not the case. And, all the people who just go, well, people just won't like me if I'm an atheist. Well, fucking grow a pair, dude.
Well, I think have you ever listened to the Thinking Atheist show? the Thinking Atheist podcast, because he has stories on all the time about people that are older in life that are afraid to come out as atheists because it might cost them their job, or because it might cost them, family relationships or whatever. I'm lucky in that, I never really had those problems, but there's some people out there that just don't have it, have it as easy as someone like myself.
Yeah, but if you come out like that, all right, let's be really honest. What's best? To lie to everybody in your life so that they like somebody who isn't even real. They like an imaginary character that you've created. Or if you just come out and be yourself, and anybody who rejects you, who hates you because you don't believe in an imaginary friend in the sky, these aren't people who are ever really your friends. These are not people who ever cared about you to begin with.
Well, once again, bringing up Jehovah's Witnesses, I have a whole lot of relatives that are Jehovah's Witnesses, and thankfully I have not had to deal with this. But if you openly say something against the witnesses or become atheist or whatever, you are what they call disfellowshipped. And the people in the organization, people that you care about and love, are supposed to treat you as if you've never existed. There was a case where what was the guy's name? Raymond Franz. He was the nephew of at the time President Frederick Franz. This was late 70s, early 80s. And he got kicked out of the Jehovah's Witnesses for doing nothing more than having dinner with somebody who got kicked out of the Jehovah's Witnesses. If you do something against them, you're going to, like I was saying, be cut off from everybody that you know and love. People have lost jobs because they came out as atheists, because they disagreed with, the governing body or what have you. There are real consequences to be paid for some of these people. And quite frankly, in a perfect world, everybody would be able to come out and proclaim from the hills, or let their light shine, or keep, whatever the biblical thing is. But in reality, it's just not that simple.
I think for most people it probably is, though. There's a lot of people who just would rather live the lie because they don't have to face the possibility that, well, maybe people just might not like them, and maybe they might have to go make some new friends.
That's true.
I've never done that. As far as I'm concerned, if you don't like me for who I am, then I don't need you. I don't need you in my life. I can go find somebody else. And that goes for friends. That goes for family members. That goes for anybody. I've got 2 family members who actually, unfortunately, live about 5 minutes from me, who are the most ridiculous, absurd, fundamentalist fucks. They spent decades doing missionary work in Africa and all this other stuff, and they desperately want to come over and be my friend. They desperately, because we live right by each other. I see them at the grocery store occasionally, and I don't want anything to do with them. And so I told them, we're all atheists. We're not interested in you. These are the people who they can't go a single sentence without saying Jesus 143 times.
You meet them in the grocery store, you're in the bakery. Oh, hi, Cephus. Oh, God. Hey, did you see this bread? Do you know what Jesus did with that? Oh, just go away.
That's honestly them. And so I said, we're all atheists, and we don't want to be around you. I more disfellows them than the other way around, but I'd rather do without than have to put up with that kind of crap in my life.
I think a lot of it is the fear of the unknown, because, let's face it, in the world of media, if it bleeds, it leads. That's why you never hear feel-good stories at the top of the news, like, some guy gave $1 million to some schmo on Lower Wacker Drive or whatever. You always hear about the 12, 13 people that were killed. And because you hear the negative, the negative instills the fear, and they're probably just thinking of the worst. So, I can't blame people for not coming out as atheists.
I think that, at least I hope that as time goes on, things become better. People become more self-confident and at least they're willing to open their mouths. I think we're seeing that a little bit in the, in the real world. But I just don't get people who sit there and quiver in fear, and they're afraid to actually do anything because it might possibly cause some discomfort. That's life. Get over it.
Yeah. I want to say, because I think I've always been an atheist, probably ever since maybe I know it was before high school, but I think when I turned 18, I think it became official. My parents even realized there's no church or whatever for him. And my parents, they wanted us to make our own decisions, on how we want to live our lives. So we kind of had free reign on that front. So I didn't have much of an interest in religion. I was a history and science nerd, and that's what I wanted to pursue. So I was pretty good, and I kind of kept it to myself, even amongst my friends who I knew were diehard, not really diehard. I don't think I knew too many real fundamentalist types. There was maybe one or two, but I just went about my life. I didn't wear I'm an atheist t-shirt around or anything like that. I just was myself, and I never had any problems, as long as, there's always those guys. There was this one guy, oh God, I think he was Pentecostal, and he was I think he was preaching to everyone there where I was working, and preaching to everyone there in the work center there. And, I'm like, oh, please stop. This is what he wasn't working. He was either preaching or reading one of his little pamphlets, his chick tracts or whatever he had. And, he was a nice guy, but man, it was just everything religion oozed. And I knew there was this, was working just a little bit further down was this, I don't know what kind of sect he was, a Jewish sect, but he always wore the yarmulke. I think he had the curls. He wasn't like your rank and file Jew. I think he may have been possibly going to be, talking with them, he was going to be going to Israel for some training or whatever. So, but seeing that, this guy and seeing his eyes roll, and the Pentecostal totally oblivious that, people were ignoring him and, thinking he was a nutcase. And when I told my dad, I was working summers where my dad worked, and he goes, "Oh yeah, don't engage him. Don't engage him." It's like, you'll get the sermon. And so I go, too late. I got the sermon. And, I just kept to myself. I didn't wave the atheist flag or anything like that. And, my friends, I did, I don't do church. Of course, none of them who I knew went to church never asked me about if I went to church. So it was never really a big deal. Religion was never really a big deal. And that's why I'm kind of blown away. Around the Joliet area, there seems to be a lot more religious stuff popping up, billboards and stuff like that.
Did you? I don't know if you've seen it, but on Interstate 80, westbound, between Larkin, the billboard I'm talking about.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, between
Larkin Avenue and Empress Road, or whatever they're calling it this week. There's the big thing where. The billboard has like the thing where, the guy, the classic evolution symbol where, it goes, right, all the way up to the man standing up on his hind legs. And it says, evolution is a lie. Dial 1-800 blah, blah, blah for whatever. And oh gosh, I know exactly what you mean about Joliet.
Yeah. I remember growing up. I lived there all my life. And I don't remember it being that overtly religious. We had neighbors who were religious. And most of us were Catholics. Let's see.
Joliet is a pretty big Catholic community.
Yeah. Well, it's
College of St. Francis there.
Yeah. It wasn't. There's not a lot of in-your-face religion there, and it was always pretty mild. It's just recently when I started noticing, these billboards, and I started noticing. I know up on Larkin, if you actually go up Larkin, there's a big abortion sign, and there's like what looks like, I forget, at one time they may have had an actual one of these aborted fetuses up there at one time.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, up by Menards there. But it's just starting to see more and more of this. The Jehovah's Witnesses did. Oh,
I know exactly where you're talking about. I think about it. That Larkin turns into Weber Road there, and it's Weber. I think it's Cottonwood Farms, and on top of one of their big towers, they have protect the unborn, and then they had the little signs, and outside. And then the irony of that is that every year at Halloween time, not only do they have the pumpkin, you pick pumpkin, but they also have the Statesville Haunted Prison.
Yes. Yeah.
Go see your aborted fetuses at the Statesville Haunted Prison.
Oh yeah. Have you been into any of those those hell house things?
Fortunately, around here, I don't think they really have those. I don't think that's a thing that's really come to the Chicago area too much.
Now, there was one that they had here for like 1 or 2 years, and I don't think anybody ever went to it after that, so they closed it down. But, I mean, it was just absurd. Just to walk through there, and they actually did have the aborted fetus room. Where you're just walking in there, and there's like all these little dolls they've got hanging all over the walls on meat hooks. And I'm like, guys, that's not how abortions are done. I'm sorry.
Hey, I didn't know they got the license to the Saw movies.
Yeah, those things are just, they're frightening. And I think the reason that we're starting to see a lot of those signs now is it's the last gasp of religion. It's just the fanatics who are left. Most of the other people have already said, all right, religion's stupid, we're going to walk away. And it's just the real crazies who are left, and they are doing everything that they can to attract more people for their pews. Mm-hmm. So they're putting up all these signs, and they're going door to door, and they're getting on TV, and they're doing all this other crap, and it's just making them look more crazy.
Did you ever see the South Park episode? I can't remember the name of it, but Eric Cartman makes a bet that he could get a platinum album before Kyle by creating a Christian rock band. And later on in the episode, he's trying to get Cartman's trying to get his band up on the stage, and so he meets up with this Christian punk band and is like, "Yeah, we're here to show them that you can really be hardcore and be Christian." And Eric Cartman starts laughing. He's like, "Sure you can."
Sure, we believe that.
It was hilarious. That episode was hilarious because Eric Cartman came upon the formula for creating a good Christian song. You just take a normal love song, and just instead of saying baby, you put in Jesus. And there was one, he's like, "Oh, how I'm going to get down on my knees and please you, Jesus. Feel your sweet salvation all over my face."
No, that's the Catholic priest. Well, speaking of Catholic priests, let's go ahead and do the last story.
Oh yeah, yeah, and a really nice segue too, because the craziness.
Yes.
This is from the Virtue Online. This apparently is the voice for Global Orthodox Anglicanism or whatever.
Anglicanism.
Whatever. Decline of religion in the West has created a rise in black magic, Satanism, and the occult. That explains everything. This apparently story comes from Rome. The decline of religion belief in the West and the growth of secularism has opened the window to black magic, Satanism, and the belief in the occult. The organizers of a conference on exorcism have said.
Oh, hold on, one second. Yeah, I'll be right back. What are we having for dinner? Oh, dead baby? I'll be right there. Okay, continue.
Okay. Yeah, the 6-day meeting in Rome aims to train about 200 Roman Catholic priests from more than 30 countries on how to cast out evil from people who believe themselves to be enthralled to the devil. 6-day meeting, 200 Roman Catholic priests from 30 countries.
They're going to lay hands on you.
Well, no, this is the funny part, all right? And I have to do this quote because this just demonstrates how stupid this is, all right? This is a quote from Giuseppe Ferrari, who's with the group that put on the conference. And he says,
Giuseppe.
"We'd live in a disenchanted society, a secularized world that thought it was being emancipated, but where religion is being thrown out, the window is being opened to superstition and irrationality." Jesus, cognitive dissonance much?
Well, you do know that women wearing bikinis causes earthquakes too. So.
Oh yeah, boobquake.
Yeah. Hey, the more earthquakes, the better, I say.
Yep. Hey, I can do that. And I really don't see this as being more than a means for the Catholics to keep getting more cheap press. I mean, how better to scare the gullible back into your pews than to tell them demons and devils and scary monsters are out to get you?
Yeah, when I first saw this story, from the Irreverent Skeptics, we just did a thing on the Satan panic.
The satanic panic.
Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, maybe this is cool. I can plug that podcast. And when I did that, we had Stuart Robbins from the Exposing Astronomy podcast, and he sent me some stuff from George Norrie.
Oh, God.
And it was there was this guy, Joshua Abraham. He's the son of I forget what's his name. His last name Abraham. He's the co-writer of None Dare Call It Conspiracy. It has to do with the Illuminati, the one world government, Rothschilds, Rockefeller trying to take over the world shit. And this audio clip, and it's 2 hours, probably actually about an hour and a half worth of. Apparently, this guy believes that Satan actually controls the reptilians. These are if you're familiar with David Icke, he believes that the royal families and Obama, all the leaders of the world are these shape-shifting reptilians.
Well, be fair, that does make some sort of sense.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I'll give it some little credit there. But yes, Satan controls the reptilians, and the reptilians control the gray aliens who kidnap humans to steal their sexual organs, fluids, cut up cattle in fields, all that kind of stuff. And they also control the Illuminati. The Illuminati, of course, then controls the Freemasons, the Club of Rome, the Vatican, all the institutions who ultimately control the politics, the corporate, all this, who then we're the sheeple so the Greys can steal our body parts and do whatever experiments or whatever and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, this guy's talking about that this Illuminati is allowing Satan into the world, and apparently in another part, these kidnappings, when the Greys try to steal people to butt diddle them or whatever the deal is, apparently all you have to say is be gone in the name of Jesus, and it stops the aliens. So this guy's convinced that Satan, through the reptilians and the gray aliens, you can stop them by just saying, in the name of Jesus Christ, leave me. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I'm actually doing this for my regular show. Actually, it'll be the second episode after this one, where I'll talk more about it, because this guy is just so out there with, that Satan's taking control. He's already here. He's manipulating the aliens to screw with humans, and I'm like, where do you get this stuff? And apparently, I don't know, he says that he got it from the Bible. And I'm like, where in the Bible does it say to send I don't remember anything about gray aliens in the Bible, or reptilian aliens.
I think a lot of them go to the book of Ezekiel, where it says something about Ezekiel saw the wheel, and a lot of people interpret that as being a UFO, and
right,
and then angels walking up the ladder, up and down, and that, and they're doing a lot of they're taking a lot of creative license, if you will, and
right. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff in Revelations, too, that goes that way, too. If you read some of the books by all the crazy alien authors, you get a lot of that kind of references.
One thing I wanted to bring up earlier, and it totally slipped my mind, I have a field day with conspiracy theorists because, first of all, my birthday is September 11th. Secondly, I work for Big Pharma. Third, I was looking into being a Freemason at one point. Let me think. Fourth, I got a job offer at a nuclear power plant. And then when I start getting on them about their bullshit, they bring up my last name. Like, oh, well, I see that you're practicing propaganda just like your namesake, who was Hitler's right-hand man. I'm like, well, there you go. And you were bringing up the Illuminati and the Freemasons, and I'm feeling that, because I missed the last Illuminati meeting, but hey, yeah. The Illuminati does have a 15% off day at Chili's every Wednesday, so you might want to take advantage of that.
You know what? I haven't got my check yet from Big Pharma. I'm very disappointed there.
Well, I do get a check every 2 weeks from Big Pharma.
My check comes from Big Oil, so I guess maybe that's the... That's the difference. But I haven't got my shield check. I haven't.
One thing I'm trying to get made for my podcast to sell is a T-shirt that has the gigantic words on it, "Paid Shill." Trying to get those made.
I'll buy one.
There we go. I'd buy one.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people express interest in that. I just got to get with my T-shirt guy.
Well, anyway, getting back to this, we actually just wandered off again.
Yeah. Well, we were sort of on topic.
Sort of.
Yeah.
You know, it's all the Satanist, you know, and I think I've talked about it before too. Was it Satan?
Well, isn't that special? Apparently some of us go to church when it's convenient. Anyway, I told you I do a lot of voices.
Yeah.
I talked on an earlier show, you know, like, with the decline of religion, I mean, as people are being disenfranchised with their religions or realizing that it's all bullshit and striking out into the world of, well, what do I do now? Am I an atheist? Am I agnostic? And sometimes, you know, I was always concerned about, personally, I think the best route is either being atheist, maybe agnostic, you know, maybe there is something bigger, but I don't know. I don't have any clue. But, you know, some of these people do tend to drift into cults. And certainly, and I don't know if Pastafarian counts as a cult. It's more of a joke than anything, but, you know, the Jedis and the stuff like that.
I worship Bob.
You know, and I'm just trying to think, you know, because there's some that are finding the way to this quote unquote Satanism. And because see, actually what prompted this guy's rant was that there was a Satanist black mass that was supposed to be put on at Harvard or some university, which of course got shut down after, you know, once the school realized what was going to happen, it got shut down and it was called off. And actually he looped groups, atheists, in with Satan. I mean, again, or being Satanists, because one, it's like these people don't get, you know, an atheist does not believe in anything, you know, anything spiritual, religious, anything like that. There's no God, there's no devil, there's no demons and angels and stuff like that. It's just, you know, we live in a physical world.
The only thing an atheist believes is that we believe we'll have another beer.
Exactly. Probably
right
two.
Yeah, two.
And
3 after hearing some of this stuff.
And one for the road. Yeah. And, you know, they seem to think we have to believe in something. And if you don't believe in God, you're believing in Satan. That's the only other aspect. To them, that's all they can think of. They can't think past their imaginary friends. And like here, I mean, I think it's the Catholic Church just trying to stay relevant in a Catholic Church end time or a religious end times. You know, they're dying. They need to be relevant somehow. And this is something they're going to turn to. And I mean, we've had a couple stories like this where exorcisms are on the rise. Exorcists are, you know, they're training exorcists in Italy and stuff like that. I think they even mention in here.
Yeah, but it's not just the Catholics. You got to remember, we did a story a while back about Bob Larson and his teenage girl exorcist squad.
Yes.
Oh, right. I was mentioning earlier in the show about these audio clips that I provided you from Pat Robertson, and that whole thing, the whole tape series that came from was basically a do-it-yourself home exorcism kit, so to speak. Some of the churches I've been to, of the Pentecostal type, there was all of the praying and laying on of hands and demon to come out, sort of thing. And it's not just a Catholic thing. The Catholic thing is more based on liturgy and a precise order of service, so to speak. Whereas the Protestant exorcism, if you're one of those churches that believe in that, it's just the come out sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think all of it is just all the various religions are trying desperately to attract the only people who are likely to walk through the doors anymore, and that's the crazies. So they're going for more and more and more extreme beliefs.
Yep.
Yeah, extreme. All right. And unfortunately, when you get these people who are going, oh, I've seen demon possessions and all this other stuff, there is no demon possession. I mean, religion simply lends itself as an outlet for the crazy people.
Okay. I got to interject here. One of the audio clips that I gave you is, I believe it took place in Israel or something, where some women came up to Pat Robertson and told him that, this one woman was demon possessed. Would you go and help cast the demon out? And God spoke to me and said, she's not demon possessed. Ask her about her sex life. And the reason they thought she was demon-possessed is because she was coughing and having this asthma outbreak. And at the very end of the clip, Pat Robertson was like, sexual problems cause asthma. You're going to have to play that clip right after this, after this bit.
And as I was waiting, the Spirit of the Lord spoke to me. And what he told me was somewhat embarrassing. But I was in a hurry, and I wanted to help her. Oh, everything's fine. I said, how's your marriage life? And she said, I have a wonderful marriage. And I have a loving husband, and everything's fine. And I asked some more questions and couldn't get to the root of this asthma. And I didn't sense that I was dealing with demons. And so I said again, under the prompting of God's Spirit, well, could you tell me specifically about your sex life? And she said, I don't have any sex life. And I said, what do you mean? You just told me you had a wonderful marriage, everything was great. And she said, I don't. And I said, why not? And she said, my husband is impotent. Now that would cause asthma.
But that whole thing is about, is like I said, it's a do-it-yourself exorcism kit, and the nuttiness that he talks about is just it's just off the charts. And sadly, I believed it at one time. But
yeah, well, wow. Hey, we all came from that background. I mean, I was right there with you, so I do not understand how I ever believed any of that crap, but I did.
We were young and stupid once.
Oh, see, I was into all that stuff. I used to go out and get tapes on, backward masking and rock and roll.
Dude, and all I had this one tape series. There was this Christian rap group called Apocalypse or whatever, and they had this one song, and it had interspersed with it this woman who claims that she went to hell and came back and described what hell was like, and said in the liner notes it said, to get a copy of this tape, send $5 to such and such church, and I did that, and I'm listening to that. And I'm thinking, oh wow, this is like scary and stuff. But looking back on it, it's like, really?
Seriously?
I should see if I still got those tapes. They were a hoot.
Yeah, I think I've still got some of them. I'd have to go look them up. It'd be cool to put those online sometime. All right. Well, I think we've kind of beat that one to death.
I'm still thinking about those audio clips. You beat it to death. Oh God!
No, let's not go there. Let's not go there.
No. Let's not go there.
Especially when you combine that with naked Pat Robertson.
Ah, jeez.
All right, no more. All right, so we're about done with the news. Let's go ahead and do the main event.
This is the main event.
A couple of shows ago, Jim Goebel contacted me via email to say he had a beef with some of the things we'd said on the show and asked if he could come on. Of course, we jumped at the chance, and here he is. Now, since I have no clue what it is he wants to say, I'm just going to turn over the microphone to him so he can let us have it. So take it away. How do you want to kick us?
Groin.
Subject.
Yeah, groin is too easy. There's a few things. I mean, and if you really want to get down to it, I think we will agree like on 75% of the issues, and mainly because that your version of conservatism isn't the right wing, gays are going to hell sort of thing, from what I've heard.
Well, that's because that's not conservative. That's
I will agree with you.
Conservative, completely different thing.
That's a religious conservative, or whatever you want to give a nice new word to it.
Dumbassery.
Or as I like to say, what kind of douchebaggery be this? But You can use that clip, whenever you feel need. But you were talking about the death penalty. Okay. Now, first, a little introduction. I am a libertarian. I am a big L libertarian, as I'm a member of the Illinois Party. I have some concerns with the National Party, so I'm not a member of the National Party. And I am a small L libertarian because I think more of there are some areas, even in the state party, that I don't agree with. And you said on a previous episode, when you get upset, that you're talking libertarians or whatever, or whatever group, you're basically not meaning to generalize. You're talking about the people that, that really piss you off. And there needs to be, it's easier with the Democrats and Republicans because you can have liberal Democrats, you can have conservative Democrats, and, the same way with Republicans. And you got a different word for each. When it comes to libertarians, people just see the word libertarian and, not realizing that there is a divide between the party and the philosophy.
Well, that's because they use the same word.
Exactly.
Pick different words, and that's not us, that's them.
That's exactly, and I totally agree that is a problem. But as with the Republicans, as I was saying, you have liberal Republicans, you have conservative Republicans, you have libertarian Republicans. I mean, there's not one political party that will cater to every faction. And the libertarians are the same way because we have people that are out and out anarchists that want no government at all. We've got the people that are libertarian in name only, like Bob Barr, who is a total bunghole, and oh gosh, I got my problems with that situation. But that we can discuss on my show at some time. But and then there's people like me who consider ourselves minarchists, who think that there is a role for government. It's just not what we have now. For example, anarchists, like I said, they don't want anything. But people like me believe that there is a role for government in providing for cops, courts, roads, and defense. But
I want to say, if I can interject,
sure.
That's why I like to talk about, like I always try to say, I like right-sized government. Mm-hmm. The right government for the right purposes. That's always been my stand. I mean, I don't know. That sounds like what you're saying almost. We need the right type of government in the right places. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that?
Yeah, I think that's fair, but once again, I mean, I always say once again when I'm bringing up something I haven't talked about yet. But everybody, we are all individuals, and what would be a right-sized government, to me, wouldn't be right-sized to you, wouldn't be right-sized to Cephus, wouldn't be right-sized to my mother-in-law, who's a Democrat election judge. But it's getting to where where you think government should be. The libertarian philosophy is based on what they call the non-aggression principle. It basically states that you can't use force or fraud, to get your way. To put it another way, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. You don't want people stealing from you, don't steal from others, sort of thing. But people use that and they dogmatize it and think that that's the end-all, be-all. But as with everything, there's a little give and take, a little leeway that's intended. But for the most part, we don't believe that you should use violence, to get your way. An example I like to bring up is back in the day. Now, I am a Chicago Cubs fan, but back in the 90s, I believe it was, the government gave tons of money to the White Sox to build a new Comiskey Park or U.S. Cellular or whatever they're going to be calling it soon. And as a Cubs fan, I should not have had to pay my money for that particular cause because I don't go to that park. I don't, I live out in the suburbs, but still state tax dollars were going to it. So I wouldn't have any, I wouldn't be there. I would have no use for it. And likewise, I wouldn't want a White Sox fan to be forced to spend their money on a new stadium or renovations for the Cubs. I mean, that is, I think, a wrong thing to do. And that's an example I like to give about the about not using force or fraud to get your way. Basically, the state is pointing a gun at your head saying, cough up money so that we can give the White Sox a new stadium.
Well, no, they're not really, because you're paying your taxes. You don't get to pick where your taxes go. You pay into a general pool, and then the money that they decide to spend comes out of that general pool and just goes to everything. That's like saying, well, I don't want to spend money, or I don't want my tax money to go towards a new fire department or a new fire building on the other side of town that will never come and save me in the event of a fire. Well, no, you don't get to pick and choose.
But that's, I think, a bit of a different situation, because people would have business on, say, the other side of town or what have you, and still have that service available to them. I'm talking, this situation I have is something that will not affect me in any way whatsoever. But I don't think that that's a very good example. But let's see, I started out talking about the death penalty, but I think what I'm going to go to first is something you guys had mentioned about education, how you guys think that there should be like a federal standard for education for schooling and, a certain curriculum, especially in the sciences and that sort of thing. And I have to disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with it is because you're saying if we can establish something at the national level where that has, these certain, standards that they have to achieve, then that would be better for all if they are scientific and if they are, something that you can prove. And I'm against that because it also works the other way. Let's say that we get a bunch of religious people, hardline religious people in control of the government and try to put forth, creationism as they're trying to do, more on the local level these days. But if you get people in like that, then they're affecting the whole country with bad science, bad education. At least if you leave it to the state level, then you're not affecting the whole country in a negative way should that situation come across.
But I don't really believe that would ever happen, especially the way that we were saying it should be set up, where all those determinations are being made by experts in the field, not by politicians.
What politician is going to give up any sort of a power whatsoever? Here in Illinois, we've got people who have never seen a farmland or seen a farm in their life making farm policy down in Springfield. I believe there's a bunch of people that are state representatives here in Illinois on the south side of Chicago. Their districts extend all the way from the south side 100 miles south to like the little dopey town of Watseka, Illinois. But because all of the people up in the south side of Chicago voted for him, basically got him elected. These people are in control of making farm policy. And they've probably never seen a farmer in their life, at the very least, never seen how one works.
That's very true, but the people elect them. And let's face it, the smaller the voting base that you have, if you're talking about a town or a city or a state or whatever, the smaller the voting block that you have, the more possible it is to get the real crazies in office. And you look at that in Texas, and you look at that in a lot of the South, where you've got all these creationist crap going on in the schools. And the only reason it's going on in the schools is because you have a bunch of people who get put into office by a few people, and now they get to affect every kid that comes out of those schools.
I don't agree that it's just they're getting put into office by what you say, a few people. I think we're talking more, especially in Mississippi and maybe to a lesser degree Alabama. I think that that's more of a cultural thing. And I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm saying that's probably more the reason, because they're all more of the God, guns, and country type down there.
Oh, I agree with you completely. And I don't, by a few people, I didn't mean a few, I meant in general, when you're voting for somebody at the national level, you're looking at millions of voters as opposed to maybe thousands or hundreds of voters when you get down the ladder. Mm-hmm. And the more people that you have voting, the more you tend to edit out those extremists. Mm-hmm. You tend to moderate the choices that are made, so you don't have the extreme left or the extreme right. You do tend to get more people who lay somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm.
From what I've seen, I don't believe that the middle is actually controlling things. It's I'm trying to think of how to explain it here. Train of thought is boarding at the station. I see it more as that they're not, the center doesn't fully vet the candidates. This is just my opinion, I have nothing to back it up, unlike, a conspiracy theorist who says they have everything to back it up. I don't think they're really controlling the outcome of the election based on rationality. I think I think that's more of a lesser of two evils vote. And you could have, two people running on two different parties, both creationists, but one's for lower taxes and the other's for higher taxes. I mean, what are they going to vote for?
Well, that's the problem, is that we don't have any good candidates running. And it's not just the big two, it's everybody. Mm-hmm. Across the board, there isn't a goddamn good candidate running for any office from any party anyway.
Mm-hmm. And I would agree with it. You see, I said I don't think we're going to disagree on too much. I think more of our disagreements are going to be, with the possible exception on the death penalty, are going to be more of the minor sort. But I still see it as being a problem, because there can be, just given the way that this country is set up in a electoral sense, has more possibility for abuse. And once again, I have nothing to back this up.
Yeah, but see, I see it when these parties put up the crazy candidates, the Rick Santorums, the Palins, all those kind of people. Those are not the people who are getting the nod from the voters. Those are not the people who are getting put into office, who are getting voted up by the electorate. So I don't see where we're going to see these crazy things happening on a national level. And if we set up the laws where it's not the politicians who actually have the control, it's these independent experts who go ahead and recommend these curriculums, that way you get rid of the Alabamas and the Mississippis and the Texases and the crazy people like that, who are trying to teach religion in school, who are violating the Supreme Court rulings, who are doing all this other stuff. And the other thing it's going to do is it's going to even out education across the country, so that if you move from California to Illinois, or you move from Massachusetts to Texas, you can walk into a classroom and be learning the same thing that you were learning at the school that you left, instead of being, holy shit, I'm a year ahead, or I'm a year behind, or these people are not teaching science, they're teaching magic.
Well, I think one problem there is that you're correct that the Palins didn't get elected, and it's amazing that Biden didn't pull down Obama as much as I thought he would. But you're not seeing the real crazies get elected, because the other candidates are kind of hiding the crazy. And I submit as my example, W.
Yep, he was crazy.
But he hit it well during the elections. Well, I won't say hit it well, but he hit it better than most of the other people. And with Obama, he was able to sweep the whole Jeremiah Wright thing under the rug. I think it's more the savvy politicians are the ones that are winning, not the ones that really don't have much, I won't say political experience, but as much political savvy, if you will, that are the ones that are not winning.
Sure. But then you get people like Barr and other libertarian candidates, or Constitution Party candidates, or all these other people who are not really any better than anybody else the Republicans or Democrats are putting up.
Well, when you come to candidates, nobody's going to totally agree 100% with any of them. I will say that in the case of Bob Barr, I probably should have taken my own advice and not voted for somebody, because I do not buy the voting for lesser of two evils thing. But
but in that case, you'd never vote, because no party puts up anybody worth voting for. I'd never vote again.
I would disagree, because I did not vote against Obama, and I did not vote against Mormon boy, Romney. I voted for Gary Johnson, because I liked everything that he said. And yeah, there are things I didn't agree with him on, but for the most part,
I didn't agree with him at all.
You didn't agree with him at all? Uh-oh.
Well, I mean, I didn't really agree with his platform, and I don't agree with any of their platforms. I think they're all a bunch of fucktards. Well, I think we would do better with nobody in the presidency most years.
And to be perfectly honest, I would actually agree with that. But, I liked a lot of what Gary Johnson said. He isn't, obviously he ran as a Republican first. And I think they got him kicked off the ballot in Michigan because of that, which I thought was total bullshit. But, but you're never going to agree 100% with somebody. However, if, a candidate's 96% evil versus a candidate that's 95% evil, I mean, I won't vote for the 95%. The one that's 95% evil, I'm just not going to vote.
Yeah, but the problem is that whether you vote or not, you have to live under the rule of whoever gets in. And one of them's going to get in. Mm-hmm. We don't have a none of the above on the ballot. I wish we did, but it would always win. And we'd never have a president, which is kind of a good thing. But
depending on how they write the none of the above thing, there's many different schools of thought on that. But, yeah, and then that's the whole, I think I take it to another level. There's the whole, voting for a third party is a wasted vote thing. And obviously, as you probably assumed, I don't buy that. I think that the only wasted vote is a vote that's cast against your conscience. And I would prefer living with a clear conscience, no matter how evil the ruler might be, than, voting for somebody because, he's only slightly less evil than the other guy.
I don't think that anybody running is any less evil than anybody else, really. It's just who is going to cause the most damage, and I'm going to keep them out of office if I can. Because they're all going to cause damage. They're all going to cause damage. And
well, to some degree, true.
And unfortunately, let's be really honest about this. And I'm not saying this against libertarians or any third-party candidates, but let's be really honest. If by some miracle some third-party candidate won the presidency, mm-hmm. they would get in there and they would do nothing for their entire presidency because Congress would block them at every goddamn turn, and you know it.
Well, you're assuming, too, though, that no third-party candidates would be winning the House and the Senate. I think if we had a strong third-party candidate running for president, that there would be a lot of coat-tailing of Senate and especially representatives. And
yeah, but
so I think you're
talking about a party that has never won more than 3% of the vote. That's not going to happen. That's not realistic.
It might not be, but... And I think you can affect more change with third parties more on the local level. But that having been said, I take it as a issue of conscience, and I just can't conscientiously vote for Romney. I can't conscientiously vote for Obama. Can't vote for whoever either of those parties throw up. And I violated my conscience when I voted for Bob Barr. But I have to go by with the quote-unquote little voice in my head. I have to live with myself, and I just can't I just can't vote for somebody, or I just can't vote against somebody. Let's put it that way. I have to vote for somebody. And
yeah, but if I waited until I found somebody I could vote for, I would never vote again.
Well, you do live in California. But then again, I do live in Illinois.
It doesn't matter where I live, plus the fact, in California, the Democrats always going to win, and I don't affect national elections at all.
Well, same here. I mean, as I like to say, people also throw the wasted vote thing, and I'm like, if you're going to use that argument, it only works in the 10 battleground states anyway. Here in Illinois and in Texas and in California and, I don't know, Georgia, Florida, well, not Florida, but New York. I mean, unless you're voting for the party in control, your vote doesn't count, so you're free to vote your conscience.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, and this is something I've recommended to libertarians before, and apparently they don't listen, but, the libertarians have really been stumping for the presidency for 40 years now and have never really gotten any place. Mm-hmm. What they really need to do is they need to be focusing on big city mayors, governors, that kind of stuff. They need to be able to show that libertarian politics and libertarian policies actually work in practice so that these people get elected and mm-hmm. re-elected, mm-hmm. and they can work their way up to the presidency. But they don't want to do that.
I absolutely agree with you 100%. When we started this conversation, or near the beginning of it, I mentioned that I am not a member of the National Party. I am a member of the Illinois Party. I think it's more important to get the building blocks, to get the foundation in first before we can start building the skyscraper.
Yep. But they've spent 40 years going, we're going to get a president up there, and they have never even gotten close. They never will.
I think the main reason that they are running the presidential candidates is more of a trying to get the message out there, more sort of advertising. Of course, it doesn't help much that the Democrats and Republicans control the Council for Presidential Debates, and they make all of the election laws. Like I said earlier, I'm in the process of trying to collect signatures to get libertarian candidates on the ballot here in Illinois. We have to get 25,000 signatures. The Democrats and the Republicans, who control the system, only have to get 2,500. And they're going to, when we submit our signatures, they're going to have lawyers there to challenge every signature. So the law says we need 25,000. In reality, we're pushing for 42,000 to make it as challenge-proof as possible. But then we have to have lawyers in there. And so we have to spend our money, defending the signatures so that, any of that money we cannot put toward PR and advertisements and that sort of thing. And the system is skewed, which is why you see people like, someone I used to admire until he went full crazy, Ron Paul, running as a Republican, even though he's a libertarian.
Yeah, well, Ron Paul's always been kind of crazy.
I don't know. I don't think he always has. I think he's getting old.
He's a complete religious nutball creationist.
Oh, I never heard the creationist part, but it doesn't surprise me.
Oh yeah.
He's been on Alex Jones. He's gone.
Yeah, I know. That's when I started losing. That's when I started losing respect for him. Actually.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I absolutely agree with you. The government is screwed up, and we need to seriously go in there and flush it out. The problem is that we've gone ahead and we have turned the government over and turned change of the government over to the very people who benefit most from the government being the way that it is. So how do we fix that?
There's not a whole heck of a lot of ways we can fix it. We can push for third parties. We can push for reform in the main parties. And I think there has been some good. I don't like what the Tea Party is doing for the Republicans. The way I understand it, when the Tea Party first came out, it was more trying to be a libertarian wing of the Republican Party, but it got co-opted by the Sarah Palins and the religious nut jobs.
Exactly.
But I think you can do a lot of good in that way. Someone suggested by changing the system, try to live under the radar as much as you possibly can. But I think the best advice is that I had heard, and sadly I'm not in a position to take advantage of it, but to live as free as you possibly can. I guess that would be the flying under the radar thing. And
but that doesn't change the system. That just makes you not be affected by the system.
I don't know. I don't know. I think people would see what you're doing and see what's going on, and then you say like you could get in trouble with the law or something just for doing something that is totally innocuous. People will see that and come to your support. I throw it out as an example. I don't know if you've followed this very much, but over the last 4 or 5 years, there have been a lot of stories, although I haven't heard them quite yet this year, of local governments closing down kids' lemonade stands. And because you don't have the permit, and you need a kitchen and blah 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 blah. And people see this sort of bullshit coming out of the government, and they're thinking, well, wait a minute here. And then they're coming to these people's aid, and they're making positive change. I think one other thing, and it just hit me here. One other way to make positive change is through the law itself. There's an awesome legal organization that I get their newsletters from time to time called the Institute for Justice. It's the IJ.org is their website. They're basically focused in two areas. And first of all, they are a libertarian law firm or law organization, but they focus on two areas. First, they got the Castle Coalition, which fights against eminent domain abuses, and then they got their second thing is people being able to make a buck without any sort of onerous regulation. Now, I'm not saying regulation. I'm saying onerous regulation. As far as the business thing goes, just to braid hair in, I believe it was Washington, D.C. and Louisiana, you have to spend $1,500 to get a license and more money than that to take a class for all sorts of things for hairdressing and cosmetology. If all you're doing is braiding hair and it's something you know how to do, I mean, that just seems bullshit to me that you got to go through all these classes for stuff that you're never going to use. In Arizona, there was a teenager in the Phoenix area, and apparently they have a huge mouse and rat problem in there because of the desert and all that, and they're climbing up onto people's houses, going into the houses through the chimney. And this kid who's trying to pay his way through college is putting these baskets over the chimneys. And the local government, it was either the local government and the local labor union, I can't remember which, got wind of this, and they told him to stop because he didn't have a permit to do that. As far as the Castle Coalition, the eminent domain abuses, I don't remember if you heard about the Kelo decision, I believe it was in Connecticut. It was Connecticut or Rhode Island. And what happened was that the town of, it was either New Haven or New London. I want to think it was New London, was condemning this whole neighborhood, and they were going to give the property to, I believe it was Eli Lilly. And what happened is that this one person wouldn't sell or wouldn't move, and her last name was Kilo. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the IJ was fighting this tooth and nail. Now, they lost that particular decision. The Supreme Court ruled that if there's the city was making the thing that, let me back up a second. Eminent domain in the Constitution can only be used if it'll benefit has benefit to your area, like for a road, police station, fire station, what have you. The city of New London was making the argument that having this huge Eli Lilly factory there making whatever pharmaceuticals will have a huge tax benefit to the area. They were condemning houses in the neighborhood, paying them far less than market value, and they were going to turn it all over to Eli Lilly to build the factory. Went to the Supreme Court. And interesting, all of the liberals on the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the town, including the one swing vote. So this is actually one time I agreed with the conservatives on the Supreme Court. They eventually ruled in favor of the town of New London. And what happened was that by this time, it took so long that Eli Lilly was totally disinterested in the thing, and so now what's standing there where this, I won't say it was a nice neighborhood, but this middle-class neighborhood once stood, is all plowed over because the government was getting greedy for tax dollars. Yep. And I think you can make more change in those areas. There's been a heck of a lot more eminent domain successes than there have been losses. And I think going through, like I said, I think using the law will win, because you'll be surprised what some of these judges think. And some of these people on the different courts, how they will rule. I think that and jury nullification are the two ways that we can make, a bigger difference in our society. And
I agree with you on a lot of that stuff. I think that, but I'm just talking about in terms of the makeup of the government. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to change that because there's just too much money involved. Mm-hmm. And the people who benefit most from the way the system works right now are the people who are in power right now, and they're not going to change it and cost themselves power and influence and money.
One argument I always hear against libertarianism is that the corporations will run rampant if we happen to become a libertarian society. Well, it occurs to me that no corporations are giving money to the Libertarian Party. And in fact, the biggest sponsors of the rules and regulations in government are major corporations. Walmart spoke out big for the Affordable Care Act, which I might add caused my insurance to go up 65%. I got a 2.75% raise back in November, and my insurance went up 65%. So I'm taking home less money after the raise.
Well,
and,
you got to remember,
and Mattel was again.
They're not giving money to the libertarians because the libertarians aren't in power and they don't have the power to give them what they want.
Well, I mean, there is that, but I would think though, if they saw a benefit in giving money to the Libertarian Party, that they would do so on a larger scale. Mattel, they were huge in favor of the things about the regulations about lead paint. It was causing, all sorts of problems for the little guy. The corporations are gaming the system the way it is. And I think to say that, they would run rampant under a libertarian society would be, is I don't know, disingenuous, I guess, is the best way I can put it.
Well, it depends on what kind of libertarian society you're talking about. You have to remember, like you were saying, there are the out-and-out anarchists out there who want no regulation of any kind at all. They want to shut down every government agency that oversees everything, the FDA, everything. Under those regulations, absolutely they would run rampant.
Well, but yeah, that's all, folks. That is the point. I can only speak for myself and my beliefs, and none of us can speak for anyone else's belief. Hell, I believe you and Mike probably have your disagreements on stuff too.
Oh, absolutely.
And but I see more the minarchist way, more of a market-based system, which you guys have talked about in favor of, if I might throw that in there, to be the better solution. I take the whole situation with smoking being banned in restaurants and bars. They're like, oh, we got to look out for people's health. And then, well, first of all, I do a good enough job of looking out for myself. I know if I'm going to a bar, there's going to be cigarette smoke there, so I don't go to bars. But, instead of letting the owners make the choice of what they want to do, ban it everywhere, just ban it. I think, personally, the better solution is that to create a system where the restaurant, the bar, whatever, declares if they're a smoking-only facility, a non-smoking facility, or something that caters to both. Pay a $25 fee or whatever to the government to get a sticker, paste it on your window, you know what you're getting into. People can make the choice with their dollar.
Yeah, but can't you say the same thing about, well, this restaurant has decided that it's going to have lead paint. And, this one is going to have an unrestricted nuclear reactor in the kitchen or whatever. If there's no limits, there's no limits.
But that's assuming the anarchist side. I didn't say it wasn't for regulation. I'm saying that I think most regulation is bullshit. I would say 90% of it.
I wouldn't say 90%. I'd say probably 50%. Because there's a lot of things we have to have. We have to have the government looking after the food supply.
Okay, I would disagree with that. Every time, let me throw this at you. Every time you in the last whatever how many years hear of stories of people, getting sick or something, it's always at a restaurant, that was inspected by the government, or it's always at a farm or whatever that's inspected by the restaurant or inspected by the government. When was the last time you have heard of a huge botulism outbreak in a church basement, at a 4th of July backyard barbecue, from people slaughtering their own chickens and eating them at home? When was the last time you've heard of that?
Well, first off, all the people coming in the church basement and the barbecue, those all came from food that was inspected by the government.
However, the kitchens weren't.
Well, yeah, the kitchens weren't, but the food itself was.
Not necessarily, because especially in small towns, a lot of people butcher the stuff themselves.
Okay.
But they can't do that without the beef that they get, they're getting it on a frozen truck. They're getting it inspected.
No, I'm talking
about people who are taking a cow, shooting it in the head, and cutting it up.
Okay,
that's some good.
You're talking Morris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was born and lived for 21 years in Joliet, however, which is slightly better.
Yeah,
but
I worked a lot in food industry, and that's not 100% correct what you're saying. Not only are the manufacturers inspecting just for their own protection, because a botulism or a listeria, a salmonella outbreak is a very bad thing financially to the company. You start killing your customers. Mm-hmm. They got family that's going to come back and sue your ass. Mm-hmm. That's a fact.
Yeah, I
know that New York requires a state inspector in every plant, that they're there 24/7 for all their dairy products. Now, I don't know how Illinois works. I haven't done any dairy work in Illinois, but I know New York, there's a state inspector. They're trained by the state. They report to the state. Just the company has to hire them in to maintain all the health inspections for that plant. He's responsible. If there's a breakout, his ass is on the line, not only the company's ass, because one, the inspector didn't do his job, and somebody at the plant bypassed what they do. I mean, they physically put metal seals on all the critical measuring points. If you break into like a thermocouple that reads the pasteurization temperature, you have to reject everything that comes out of that plant until that inspector recalibrates that thermocouple and put it back in and put his seal back on it. I mean, there's a lot of not only just government, but the companies themselves are inspecting their own stuff. Now, that's for those that take the responsibility. They want to protect their customers. They want to protect themselves. But when you start getting something, now I will admit that there are those companies that they don't give a shit about their customer or anything, and they will put out bad product. But it's like, I'm going to say not only just the regulations, just to meet the regulations. Some of them are even trying to exceed it just to.
Yeah. Well, I think that the important point you brought up is that it's going to hurt the company. The company has an incentive to make sure everything is safe. Otherwise, they're going to get sued to bejesus and back, and they will soon not be a company. I think what's happening
not necessarily.
Well,
not necessarily.
They have an incentive to stay in business.
Well, it depends, because there's an awful lot of fly-by-night companies out there who are just out there to make a buck and go away.
Mostly lawyers.
Well, not necessarily lawyers, but there's plenty of companies out there that they're out there for a while, and then they go away and they take their money and they go do something else. And those people, if they can make a buck by skipping steps, and let's be honest, it's human nature to say, hey, nothing's ever going to go wrong.
No, something's always going to go wrong.
Walking behind them saying, hey, you're not doing this right, I don't necessarily know that I would trust these companies out of their goodness of their heart, because let's face it, all these companies have a profit motive. They have a reason to make as much money as they can. And if skipping a few steps here and there and not thinking anything's going to go wrong, I don't see where companies wouldn't be doing that, especially these smaller companies who really, they don't have a giant board and lots of people watching.
But that goes back to the fact that the mega corporations are using the government and using the regulations to their favor. And I believe we've already covered that. But I like to think that there's a lot of places where I think the free market would do a lot better job than the government regulations. And I throw out as an example, I believe that the individual airlines would be better off doing their own security at the airports.
Oh, I agree. I think we should get rid of all that crap.
The TSA is a bunch of bullshit.
Absolutely, it's bullshit.
I agree with that. I mean, it's even just when I went through the 9/11 stuff. It's like,
which was very good stuff, by the way, and I want to have you on my show because of that.
Right, but I'm going through and I'm reading the commission report, and it's like, well, you had all these agencies that had this bit of information, and the other had this other bit of information. But, they never talk to each other. So,
Mm-hmm.
And how do they solve the problem? They create the fucking TSA to start watching, or TSA I think always existed, but
there was the transportation. It wasn't the Transportation Security Administration. Wasn't it the Transportation Safety Administration? But their role was a lot smaller, I believe.
Yeah.
It was for maintenance of airplanes or something like that.
Right. They built this up. They create that Homeland Security, which, what? Why not grab a handful from each of these departments, put them in a room, and say, "Work together, motherfuckers."
Mm-hmm.
And literally have to say that because they won't work together. I mean, reading through some of that stuff, the FBI had this bit of information, but since it was their jurisdiction, it would be their collar. You always hear that in the TV. I mean, granted it's TV, but they want the credit for catching Bin Laden.
Well, you know what, that situation I think boils down
more and more bureaucracy.
Yeah, I think that boils down more to the fact that the larger any sort of organization, the harder it is to keep everything in line. The Catholic Church, I have no doubt that a lot of the higher ups don't know anything about the pedophilia scandals, and that government, the higher ups don't know what the people down at the DMV are doing a lot of times. I don't believe. And
probably.
Yeah, I mean, there's the larger you get, the more things are going to get effed up. I could tell you a lot of things about my employer, but they could be listening to this, and I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, I mean, isn't that one of the laws of thermodynamics? The more complex a system, the more likely it breaks down, or something. I don't know. I'm honestly not familiar with them, although I do know that the second law does not disprove evolution. But
of course not.
But we've gone on about that. But I wanted to also talk about the death penalty for a moment. And I think this is probably where we're going to have the largest disagreement.
Okay.
I used to be pro death penalty, and I used to think that it was a fine and dandy remedy. But the longer I lived and the more libertarian my beliefs got, I'm beginning to see it as not that good of a solution. And I mainly see it in the case where people are getting executed based on faulty evidence, bad cases, maybe not technicalities, but innocent people dying. And I don't think it's worth having one person die to make sure that all of the people worthy of death are dying. And you brought this up on a show a couple episodes ago, and you were saying that we should just pay the family of the person that was wrongfully killed and be done with it. But I think the flaw with that problem is that you're putting the financial responsibility for that once again on the taxpayer. I think it's better I think my solution, and like I said, one thing I want to say out there is that I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't think I have no clue whether my stuff is going to, my ideas, my solutions, my philosophy are going to work or not. I just don't know. What I do know is this, what we've got in society now isn't working, so might as well give it a shot. But as far as the death penalty thing goes, I don't believe in that the system we have is working. And I agree with what you had said, that, you know, it was, the death penalty was never meant to deter. I agree with that 100. Well, if 110% were possible, I would agree with it that much. But I think the better solution, once again, this is my own opinion, I have nothing to back it up, would be to let the people, the families who had been wronged by the killer, let them have the not responsibility, let them have control of the guy, you know, for however long they want. Until they thought the debt was paid in full. If they think that execution, you know, pays the debt, then I say so be it. But I think that making the government kill the person with the possibility of there being an innocent dying is just not a worthy solution.
Yeah, but you can't say anything like that about prison. We put innocent people in prison every single day based on guilty evidence, bad laws, yada, yada, yada.
We do.
But nobody says, well, let's shut down the prisons because somebody innocent might go to prison.
The difference, though, is that if you're in prison, you can fight your sentence. If you're dead, you're dead. You can't fight it anymore.
Yeah, but the way that system is set up right now, people spend 20, 30 years in prison fighting their death sentence before it's actually carried out. If they can't prove that they're innocent in that amount of time, I don't think they're going to.
There have been cases where the evidence has come out decades after the person was executed, and decades later, oh, we missed this piece of evidence. Apparently they were innocent. I mean,
right. And there is the same damn thing where people have spent their entire lives in prison, have died in prison, and it turns out they were innocent.
It happens all the time. I would venture to.
So where's the difference where you can criticize one but not the other?
Because on the one you have, like I said, death is final. Living in prison isn't. And you have more
except
resources.
When you die in prison.
Well, obviously, but that's, you know, for sake of the argument.
Worse yet, if you're in prison, if you go in, if you're found guilty of a crime and you're put in prison for 50 years at age 18, and at 40 years later they go, oh, you were right, you were innocent, and you get out and you're 60, you've lost the majority of your worthwhile life. You can't get that back, and I don't give a damn how much money they give you. You cannot recover the time that they've taken from you. You cannot recover the useful years that you no longer have that you spent behind bars.
And I would make the same argument against paying the families of people that were innocent that were put to death. There's no amount of money.
That's what we do today. And I agree with you. There's no amount of money. But if somebody is put in prison and they're later found innocent, what happens? The state pays them money to make it better, I guess. And I agree, it can't be made better. But let's be different. What's the difference between saying, hey, we put you in jail for 40 years wrongly, here's $10 million, and saying, hey, we executed you wrongly, we're going to give your family $10 million. There's really no difference between the two of those, except for the old guy who's been gang raped in prison for 40 years, can't spend the money himself.
I think there's two issues here. And first of all, you need to look at the laws and what the laws are actually are doing here. There's a lot of crimes out there where people are, I don't know, smoking pot or doing something that didn't hurt anybody else, and they're winding up in jail because of this sort of bullshit, these bullshit moral laws. And
I agree with that entirely.
So you need to get rid of that stuff out of the system, and I think that'll solve. I won't say it won't solve all. I won't even say it'll solve a majority, but it'll solve a portion of these issues. And then secondly, I'm not a believer that the prison system is a way to rehabilitate prisoners.
We don't even try.
We don't even try. Well, I won't say we don't try. I say we are very poor at it. I think that they try. I just think that they're being a government bureaucracy. It's not run really well. I think we need to focus less on, where possible. I'm going to preface it with this. Where possible, we need to look less at punishment and look more at restitution. I always thought it funny that when, let's say, like, you get into a car accident, and you caused the car accident, well, you get a ticket. Okay, you're already going to have to pay however many X number of dollars to the person you hit. You're going to have to shell out X number of dollars to fix your car, and now you got to shell out money to the state, who you didn't even harm. I could see having to pay $20 for a police report so you can submit it to your insurance. But to get a $500, $600, $750 ticket because you were in an accident, that doesn't make sense to me. And I think that the restitution of the person that you hit in the other vehicle should suffice to be punishment enough. I mean, not just restitution for, medical expenses and for, the cost of whatever repairs, but, also pain and suffering to a degree. And I think that kind of a system would work better for a lot of the cases in the current prison system. I'm not going to say it works for everything. Nothing works for everything. And I think when we talk politics, that's something everybody forgets. I think they forget that one-size-fits-all solutions don't work. I throw up the ACA as an example of that. But I think we need to consider restitution as an option in a great many cases of people that are in the prison system.
Well, it depends on what they're in there for. I don't know where you are, where the cops are giving you a ticket for having a traffic accident.
It happens in Illinois.
Did something stupid.
It happens in Illinois.
Doesn't happen here. I mean, the cops come out, they tow your cars away and all the rest of that stuff. And I know because people spend a lot of time having traffic accidents right in front of my house.
It does happen in Illinois. I've seen it. I've seen it.
Well, Illinois, I think they like to find that the person, whoever caused the accident, was doing something wrong. They were speeding. They were driving too fast for conditions. That's how Illinois works.
Yeah, if you were doing something that is against the law, then sure, you should get the penalty, whatever that happens to be, for violating the law. If you're speeding, you get a speeding ticket. If you're driving recklessly, you get a ticket for that. If you just came around a corner and bumped into somebody, you shouldn't get a ticket for that.
Well, they'll figure out something like following too close.
Yeah.
That's Illinois. I mean,
well, then that's just stupid.
We're in our own world here. I would say it's more punishment to have to pay restitution for the other person, pay for your own vehicle, your own medical expenses, and walk around with your arm in a cast for 6 weeks or whatever, than to have to pay, a ticket. I think the ticket is adding insult to injury, pun not intended at that case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, but once you get to serious crimes, murder, whatever. But that's a different thing entirely.
It's something that should be looked at and tried, and we need to get out of this the prisons for profit thing entirely. I don't think that is definitely proven to not work, because they have a financial incentive to keep people in the prisons, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know that anything I say is definitely going to work, but I know what the system is now isn't working, so might as well try something different.
Well, I mean, we can fix the system that we have right now, but nobody's really interested in doing that.
I want to say, what I like to think. First, I mean, it's too political. It just seems like you remember Joliet Peterson? That whole thing was a political. That was more for politics than for any type of justice whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned. And
the Drew Peterson thing. Gotcha. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I could tell you stories because my brother worked in the jail there. I could tell you all sorts of stories about that. Everything is just so political. And especially, I mean, I know Illinois. I mean, I could speak for Illinois. I mean, that seems to be the thing is you get, in Will County, there's the flavor of the month. Whatever you see in the newspaper, and if you see a lot of drunk driving arrests, they're going to be looking for drunk drivers. They're not going to be looking for speeders. They're going to go after drunk drivers. If there's complaint, if you see in the newspaper they're talking about speeding, they're going to be looking for speeders. They're not going to look for drunk drivers. It's all to make it look good for the newspapers. Oh, we got a problem with drunk driving. Oh, see, we've got the arrests up on drunk driving. And I'm sure it's probably there's similar things there out there in Grundy County. But if we can somehow eliminate the politics. Take the state's attorney, and I think when I mentioned in the show about capital punishment, I mentioned, what if we took, and again, this is just my ideas, whoever ever hears it, if you want to use it, great, if not, but I think if there was a way for capital crimes, we're talking rape, murder, and all the iterations of those crimes, that if you get charged with a capital crime and you're going to get a death penalty, you pull it out of the hands of the district attorney, the police department, and there'd be a whole separate, totally independent, I want to say, instead of having elected officials, they're all appointed, whatever mechanisms are needed to censor judges, but take it out of those hands, have everything re-examined, all the evidence re-examined, have new police in there to do the interviews, investigations, so on. A prosecutor that isn't elected, judges that are not elected, and see if something like that works, where there's you take the politics out, so there's no benefit to the district attorneys or even the prosecuting attorneys or anybody or the judges, to get a conviction. I know in Will County, I'm sure it's the same in, rest of Illinois. We elect our judges.
Yeah, we do too.
We elect the district attorneys. These guys are looking for cases like Drew Peterson. There's
to build their name. I'm thinking back to the movie The Dark Knight. I mean, they were trying to go back after, or Harvey Dent was prosecuting all of the criminals, and he was making this huge name for himself. And that's what our politicians are doing. I mean, they're looking for the big cases so they get their names in the paper so they can get elected. And I don't know necessarily if having judges and district attorneys and stuff like that being an unelected position is a good thing. However, once again, as I said before, I don't know if my solutions will work. I know the system is broken, so let's give something else a try. I always thought it weird. I don't know how it is in California, but here in Illinois, we've got a ton of positions that are elected positions, and the one that always puzzles me is coroner. In Illinois, you elect the county coroner. And you have, a Democrat and a Democrat one, a Republican one. And I'm like, why do you have to be a member of a party and be elected to be a coroner? Does the Republican make a conservative incision to the corpse and the Democrat make a liberal incision into the corpse? I mean, what's the deal there?
Yeah, that makes no sense at all. We don't do it like that here. I mean, you are a coroner? Great, you get the job.
Yeah. Hey, you open all the cadavers you want. I don't care how you do it. Just keep them out of my sight.
Yeah. Keep them on ice. Yeah, I mean, anything taxing, you gotta elect somebody to represent the people. I mean, I know the library boards. There's fire. I think in Shorewood's got a fireman's board. And things like that. It is crazy because when I get my ballot, when I go to vote, and there's like, oh, well, what the fuck am I voting for? All the schools, all the university board. I don't think I get to vote for tollways or anything like that. I don't know how they get their job, but
I don't know what the deal is with that, especially since we have a tollway in Will County now.
Right. Of course, all the referendums and stuff like that, the RTA.
Yeah. I think referendums are another good way to change the system. I wish it was more open like it is in California, where you can put all the propositions.
You do not want that. You do not want that. Seriously.
Well, I know of the Prop 8. Was it the Prop 8?
No, it's not just Prop 8. The system is insane. If somebody put a referendum on there to change the force of gravity and enough people voted for it, in California, the force of gravity would change. They can put anything on the ballot. Anything. And as long as they can convince enough people to vote for it, it changes.
I think I'm going to move to California and get a prop on there making me their Lord and Savior.
If you could do that, you would be.
I'm moving to California.
Good luck convincing people, but Jesus, you can put anything on the ballot you want to.
Hey, if Charles Manson can get a following, I can.
And it can be completely against the Constitution. And it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. And it might get thrown out later down the road, but they don't put any constitutional challenges on these things before they put them on the ballot.
Well, I do think that referendum and propositions can be a good way of doing it. I'm not familiar with the system in California, but I think to a degree there is good that can be done there.
Oh, sure.
It depends on how the system's set up. It depends on how.
A lot of bad.
But I mean, it does depend on how the system is set up too, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm sure that there could be some tweaking done, and hey, the problem with our society is that we're so used When conspiracy theorists talk about sheeple and that sort of thing, I see where they're coming from, because we've all gotten complacent, and not necessarily about crazy shit, because, like they think, but we see our government, we're used to the system, and we see it crumbling down. We see all the mountains of debt. We see the conflicts we're in around the world that we don't really need to be in, and we see all this, and we feel helpless, but, the people are not going out there suggesting new ideas, different ideas out there. Hey, not every idea will work, but, you can't make progress without trying new things.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like I said earlier, we've actually put people in office who benefit from the system being exactly the way it is. Mm-hmm. And we've also put the only power that there is in their hands.
Yeah, I would agree. So
we have to go beg them to change things, and they're going, fuck that. You want me to cost myself money and power and influence? Screw you.
Yeah.
And then we keep voting them in.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I think we, on many, many levels, are in total agreement on a lot of the stuff. I think we're really only disagree on 25% of the stuff that's going on. But I was listening to the most recent episode of Skepticality, and they had a historian on there talking about the presidents and, common misconceptions and misbeliefs. And one thing they brought up was the fact that, people think that today, politics are so nasty. It never used to be nasty. And you're like, well, it was nasty all the way down to George Washington. People don't realize that George Washington was accused of embezzling like $25,000 back in his day, which was a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, politics has always been nasty, but there is a desperate need for people to at least recognize the problems, that we are facing as a society, and try to get together and solve them as best we can. And, some ideas will work, some won't, but I lay the blame for a lot of this on talk radio. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but there definitely needs to be more cooperation, and I won't say between political parties, but between people.
Yeah, but most people just don't care.
Yeah. People are assholes, and I should know because I'm a people.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we go too much farther, I think we should probably call it a week. So we're going to have a really, really, really long show.
But remember, though, Mike was having problems for about almost an hour and a half there with his connection. So I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And, of course, we can talk more on your show when we do that. So.
Get that going as soon as my tech problems are done. Wow. That was a good show.
Okay. Well, anything else we want to do? Otherwise, I'm going to have you push your show.
No, I'm good. I think I got out what I wanted to say, and I'll pimp my show out. I'm nothing if not a whore. So,
okay.
My show is called The Side Project Live. We try to air every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. That's Central Standard Time. And I'm based out of Illinois. I actually just have a new co-host in Lockport. And my original co-host, he's still with the show. He's based out of Indianapolis. And we talk libertarian. Sometimes we get into conspiracy theories. And every now and then we'll just have a random episode where we'll talk just whatever's on our mind. We did an awesome episode a while back. We're talking nothing but movies, and it was a fun time. It's nice getting away from all this kind of stuff once in a while. You can hear us at radiofubar.com if you want to hear us live. We do try to do the show live on Google Hangouts as well. So just friend this, I believe. I can't remember if it's Side Project Live or Side Project Freecast on Google Plus, and then you'll get all of the updates for when we're gonna, get all the invites for the live show on video, and archives of the show, which you can listen to right now if you really want to. Well, not right now, but as soon as I'm done talking. That website is tsplive.com, and actually we do have T-shirts available in the Radio Fubar store. So I'm just throwing that out there, and there you go.
Okay, sounds good. Mike, you got anything else?
No, this is a great talk, and I'm looking forward to going on your show on the 28th. We're planning.
It'll have to
June?
be let's say later in June, because we're going to be going away in 2 weeks and no idea what we're doing in the meantime. So
okay, but toward the end of June.
Toward the end of June, because your 3-part bit, or was it technically 4-part bit on 9/11? that was just phenomenal. I loved the first episode in that series where you just laid out the timeline. And I think that's a service that I don't think any other podcast has ever done. And I think that's something that needed to be done, is to lay out the timeline free of conspiracy. Just here's the facts, and then, go from there.
Yeah, that's kind of my format. I like to try to get the facts out there, get the, just so you understand, this is what's known to be the facts. I mean, if there's, I think, trying to remember the last one for the TWA 800, there's some discrepancies in timing and stuff like that. I forget what, there's been a couple like that, but I try to lay out, a straight line. Here's the facts as we know it. And then, then try to point out, well, here's some of the problems. Here's the conspiracy. Here's what these people think. And then create a tree trunk and then build the show off of that. And it seems to be working. People do like that.
It's a master stroke. It's not something you hear that often. It's not something you hear that often on many shows.
All right. That's the end of the show. I'd like to thank Jim for coming on and having a discussion with us. And I invite anyone else who has a beef to do just what Jim did and contact us.
I've never been called anyone's hero before.
Well, yeah, but now you have. We don't bite much. You can also.
But what if I like it? No.
Yeah, well, that's a different thing. You can also leave comments on our website, on Facebook or Google+, or contact us on Twitter or via email. You can listen to the show on iTunes or Stitcher Radio, or just go to the website and click play. In any case, tell your friends about us and come back in another 7 days when we'll have more conservative atheist goodness to share with you. See y'all later, and take care. You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report Podcast with your hosts, Cephus and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Bitchspot Report. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are at our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week with another fun and fact-filled episode. Please tune in again.